Skills Train is an IT training company that sells distance learning courses. In October 2008, the BBC Watchdog, in response to nearly 200 letters of complaint, launched an investigation. And the results were that Skills Train had been uncovered to have falsified some of its endorsements of its courses. So this fueled quite an angry response. Since then, the students have been blogging online, talking about how they're not happy with the courses, how they want the money back, they've been ripped off, saying that they were given a hard sell. I personally signed up for a Skills Train course in August 2007, and since finding out about the revelations of the BBC Watchdog, I've done some investigating myself, and the results will be shown in this video. After the BBC Watchdog report was released, Skills Train actually tried to sue Google for allowing these supposedly defamatory blog entries to be posted online, and the case was appropriately thrown out of court. And another interesting piece of information that I found was a report that was from August 2007. That was the same month that I signed up for a Skills Train course. The Advertising Standards Authority ruled that Skills Train had breached 3 different TV advertising standard code rules on misleading advertising, evidence and implications. The fee for a Skills Train course is typically several £1000s. A sales representative comes to visit the customer to sell them a course, and during that meeting lots of glossy brochures are shown, including lists of supposed endorsements of the courses by major IT companies. You are left with the assumption that you will get a qualification that is recognised as industry standard. The sales representative shows charts and figures talking about how much money a person can earn after they've completed a Skills Train course, and these salaries look very impressive. The sales rep then gives the potential student a basic IT knowledge questionnaire, but of course the questions are so basic that it's very easy to pass anyway. After that, the sales rep then makes a series of phone calls to a credit company, which in my case was Career Development Finance, and the credit company pays the full fees for the course to Skills Train, and then the customer has to pay back monthly instalments to the credit company for the next few years. So that's basically how people are signed up for these courses. It seems to be designed to take advantage of people who wish to change career without becoming full-time students to learn a new trade. As I got further through the course, I found that the materials were, I found them to be badly written. I found that the order in which things were being taught seemed to be wrong. And I began comparing the course content to cheap off-the-shelf IT books, which turned out to be much more easy to understand, even though the same subjects were being covered. I wrote letters of complaint to Skills Train. They completely refused to cancel the course and to even give me a partial refund. Then I discovered the BBC Watchdog report, which explained that the Microsoft and Cisco endorsements of Skills Train courses have been fabricated. And so I began a further investigation of my own, and I wrote to all of the other companies whose logos were featured on my course materials. There were 9 endorsements altogether. So the additional false endorsements that I discovered were eSkills, City and Guilds, and the British Learning Association. So yeah, that made a total of 5 false endorsements. In the meantime, I had cancelled my direct debit payments to Career Development Finance, the credit company, and I began receiving letters and emails and phone calls from them telling me that I needed to continue with my payments for the course, otherwise the debt would be passed on to a debt collection service. So I stuck to my guns and I refused to make any more payments. Now, one thing that really got my suspicions up about CDF was that their correspondence didn't contain any business address. The letters would just have a PO box number on, and for a small fee I downloaded the financial and legal records on both Skills Train and CDF. And the results were interesting. It turned out that both companies were based on the exact same street in Luton. The CEO of SkillsTrain is a guy called Jan Talensky. This guy describes himself as an entrepreneur, and he is not only the CEO of SkillsTrain, but he also has been listed as a director of Career Development Finance. And there is an Elena Talensky, who has been a secretary of CDF on and off for several years. So it seems very clear that you've got this sort of management combination between these two companies, and you basically, whichever company you're speaking to, you're dealing with more or less the same people. Something else I found that was interesting is that there is also a SkillsTrain Europe Limited, and their address is 56 Collingdon Street. That's the exact same address as Career Development Finance. Another interesting note is that Jan Talensky resigned from his position at Career Development Finance just 1 week before the BBC Watchdog report was published. But he was reappointed 3 months later after the initial flurry of bad press had subsided. So the next time you see a news report of Jan Talensky talking about green policies at his Aqua City resort, or posing charitably with underprivileged children, or meeting the Queen or Prime Minister, or promoting one of his other training companies like Train to Game, which itself is getting a lot of bad reports online, remember what you've learned here and through the BBC Watchdog about the SkillsTrain scam which he is involved in. Feel free also to visit his YouTube channel or his blog, but don't expect to be able to leave comments or ratings on his videos on YouTube because those functions have been disabled. So I took my case to Liverpool Trading Standards. I specifically noted sections 5 and 7 of the Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations 2008. As soon as Liverpool Trading Standards challenged SkillsTrain on these issues, I was offered a refund. But the refund offer was given on the condition that I accept it as a goodwill gesture rather than an admission of liability. And SkillsTrain also tried to attach a condition whereby I would not be allowed to talk about or publish any information about what I'd discovered about SkillsTrain's activities. And I wrote back to them telling them that if they didn't give me a refund with an admission of liability and no gagging order, then I would take them to the county court and pursue it that way. But I didn't need to go to court because SkillsTrain were fairly quick in giving me my money back after that with no conditions attached. So I've decided to give you this information here in this video so that you can pursue your refund with SkillsTrain if you're dissatisfied with their courses. You simply need to Google SkillsTrain under scrutiny to view that BBC report. If you write to your local trading standards, you can simply give them a video link to the BBC Watchdog report, or the other 3 false endorsements which I've got signed letters from the companies. Those are available to download from my website, which is collativelearning.com. Now, something important is that you should keep all of your SkillsTrain materials. Keep all of the brochures and all of the written contracts. Make sure that you communicate with the company by written letter. If they tell you something over the phone, you've got no way of proving that they said it. You may even wish to try and tally up some sort of recording of how many hours you've put into the courses and get some compensation for that as well, because you shouldn't have to waste your time and effort on these falsely endorsed courses. And feel free to report SkillsTrain and its activities to any other regulatory bodies that would be able to hold them accountable for the things that they've been doing. If enough people put enough effort in across the board to expose this thing, then hopefully the SkillsTrain scam can be derailed permanently.